Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another Goosebumps talk type of video. And today's subject is going to be the top 5 most sought after pieces of Goosebumps lost media. Now, in the topic of this video, I'm going over what I am mostly looking for in terms of lost media and Goosebumps. That term is very flimsy to me, because some of these couldn't be considered lost media, and some of these can be considered just uncovered media, which are like very, 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 very obscure things that diehard nerds like me look for. But I wanted to make this video to talk with you all for two reasons. For one reason is because I hit 900 subscribers, and I promised you all that I would make one of these videos, since my Goosebumps talk videos seem to be some of the more popular videos on my channel, and a lot of you like to listen to the topics I bring up. This is for you, and to help keep growing this channel even bigger than what we have. I want to thank you all who has supported me in this journey. Whether you are a very early on subscriber or a new subscriber, I want to thank you for helping grow this channel and helping grow the kids horror community as a whole, and more specifically the Goosebumps community. And I think this video topic might, I don't know, inspire some sleuths out there that maybe aren't even fans of Goosebumps, or maybe inspire sleuths that are fans of Goosebumps to go maybe aid in searches for this. So that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. And the second reason is to pay respect to the other Goosebumps sleuths out there, like Goosebumps Art, Spongy444, Jude DeLuca, all those folks out there that I've met on Twitter since coming into the game. There's been huge barriers broken down into what was formerly known in Goosebumps, the Goosebumps metaphorical iceberg, so to speak. And it grows all the time. Often than not, the ones that end up finding stuff, we fall down rabbit holes, or we follow trails and we find something we weren't expecting to find. And that's often how it is. Just this year, I mean, if you've looked on my channel, and you can go see the Brain Juice Terrifying Title Contest that includes the fabled Dead Dog Still Fetch story that was at one point thought to be impossible to solve. And Jude DeLuca, being Jude DeLuca, the legend, found the winner and got a copy of the video remastered. And I was fortunate enough to talk with the contest winner and talk with Jude, and I was allowed to share it with you all on YouTube so you all can share the experience. And it's so euphoric to go back and, not only imagine yourself as a kid and how this would have felt, but get to see something that you thought that would never surface. And a lot of that's powerful. And it's through diligence that these things get accomplished. So, with that being said, that's the second reason I wanted to make this video, is to inspire diligence. Alright, so I don't want to waste any more time. We got a lot to cover. Okay, so like I said, I picked 5 of my most sought after pieces of Goosebumps lost media. However, I do have an honorable mention, and I am wearing the shirt of it, so I guess I'll go ahead and bring it up. Now, some of you might know about some mainstream lost media searches going on with, like, R.L. Stine, right? You might know about the lost Ghost of Fear Street Book 36, The Funhouse of Dr. Freak. You might know about Goosebumps Gold, and you might know about, like, The Haunted Mass Lives, Happy Holidays from Dead House, Slappy New Year. You might know about things like that. But for me, that's really not the focal point of my lost media search, even though they are technical lost books. I kind of headcanon 2 out of those to be made, and one of them just has yet to be made. But this book, right here, Give Yourself Goosebumps 43, is my honorable mention because it would have been the last Give Yourself Goosebumps book if it were to came out, and possibly even more after. And since this is the actual art from Craig White, who was the artist from of the Give Yourself Goosebumps covers, pretty much from book 23 until the very end of the series. And somebody found this cover out and found some information from Craig White that he had no idea that the 43rd book was canceled, but he submitted the art for it, and he had the art still. So to me, how this process usually works is that there's already a kind of a rough outline that the artist knows about, and they're sent something about it, and then they make the cover for it. So to me, I think that there's a rough draft of this out there. And why I think this is important to discover is because it's one of those Fallout with Scholastic canceled books. That's the hard-hitting part. For many years, people kind of understood the Fallout with Scholastic to be the end of Series 2000 and Give Yourself Goosebumps. But most people never knew this beyond the surface of that. What happened was book 26, and now we have a title for 27 that was announced in The Art of Goosebumps. But, there was also, 15 other Series 2000 books because there was there was supposed to be a 40-book contract for Series 2000. We only got 25 of them. And Give Yourself Goosebumps was probably the second longest running series at that point, and that ended abruptly at the same time. And there was a casualty with the 43rd book, which is this. And it's funny because if you look at the Series 2000, right, the Incredible Shrinking Fifth Grader, which was supposed to be the 26th book, lived on to be an R.L. Stine novella as The Adventures of Shrinkman. When the Snake Bites was supposed to be book 27, it's unknown what happened to that concept, but we now know a title existed. So there's two casualties. And then, of course, Give Yourself Goosebumps 43. Now, among these casualties of the Stine Fallout in the early 2000s, this one has the least amount of coverage, because the problem with finding out anything about this is mostly stemmed to the fact that most people kind of have come to the conclusion that Give Yourself Goosebumps was ghostwritten. And that's really controversial, and Stine probably will never admit it, but there have been ghostwriters to come forward in the past about ghostwriting Goosebumps books. And I believe there might be more than one, but I know of one, Scott Westerfield, who came forward and pretty much confessed that he did Give Yourself Goosebumps 42, All Day Nightmare, which is the book that was supposed, right before this one was supposed to be, released. So, the fact that ghostwriters have come forward really puts a roadblock in the search of this, because it's not as easy going to Stine. Also, it's not it's not all that easy pulling back red tape dealing with Scholastic. Maybe they own maybe they're holding it hostage. Maybe they have it in some type of file somewhere. Who knows? There could be a lot of red tape with it. But the other issue about finding it is finding the ghostwriter who wrote it. The problem with ghostwriters is, if you look into the lawsuit between Stine and Scholastic was partially suing him for using ghostwriters. And finding out the exact one is hard, because there's no telling who it is. And even if you found out who it was and you had a hard evidence for it, the likelihood that they'll be able to give it to you or anyone for us to have is slim to none. Probably the only chance to ever see this book ever get a legitimate chance of releasing is if somehow Scholastic wants to do a very, very limited Lost Library series or book 10 where all of the canceled Goosebumps books they decide to limit release and sell for an exorbitant price or something ridiculous. That will probably never happen, but that's probably the only chance to ever see this come forward. I'm assuming there might be some fan fiction out there, but like I said, this is just my honorable mention, right? My top 5 are the ones that I actually think have legitimacy to be solved, if that makes any sense. Okay, so, yeah. So I wore this shirt for the topic that we're talking about here. Branching into number 5, it's another one of these canceled books, but it's not one of the casualties from the fallout of Scholastic with Stine and the year 2000. This canceled book actually, I think, comes from 1998, maybe even 1999, and it's from the shortest lived Goosebumps series of all time, Triple Header. Triple Header Book 3. Now, this is one I constantly dig for information on, only because it kind of coincides with another side research I'm doing. Not really for Lost Media, but for more like solving a mystery behind these 6 R.L. Stine novellas. There have been 3 out of these 6 novellas to be confirmed to be stories that Stine had laying around and had already had previously published. The Three Faces of Me was a jovial Bob Stine book at one point called The Amazing Adventures of Me, Myself, and I. My Alien Parents was a book called You're Not My Parents, and that was a UK Ladybird Press book from this like Twist in the Tail series that Stine apparently did for the United Kingdom. And of course, The Adventures of Shrinkman, we've already touched on, was supposed to be the incredible shrinking 5th grader in Series 2000. Now, the reason why I think Triple Header Book 3 is solvable is because on the cover art of Triple Header Book 3, when you go to look it up, you have the mascots of Triple Header, Lefty, Righty, and Slim, sitting in this orange car that looks very reminiscent to the haunted car, but it's like orange in color. And there's circumstantial evidence to kind of make me, tie together this novella mystery and possibly the haunted car from Series 2000. And it's more so not lost media, it's more so of a mystery search, but there is a lost media element just because the unknowns of what this book had inside of it. But I have my suspicions, and I've kind of narrowed it down to 3 suspects. Of course, 2 of them are two of the remaining 3 novellas that have yet to be solved. Out of the 3, there's Zombie Town, The Creatures from Beyond Beyond, and The 13th Warning. And I mentioned that in my novella video, ranking video. I thought that Zombie Town and The 13th Warning were definitely supposed to be short stories of some caliber. And since Triple Header kind of matches the story lengths of these 2 books, when dealing with individual stories and story links for each of the 3 stories in these in the Triple Header book series, it makes me think that Zombie Town and The 13th Warning have a high probability of suspect to me to be part of book 3 of Triple Header. Now, the 3rd story is circumstantial because at this point, if I think back on it, right, if Stine were to cancel a Triple Header Book 3, which was confirmed on the Bumps website, which was like the Goosebumps like fan hub back in the day, in the 90s, that it was canceled, I would probably reuse one of these stories and repurpose it into a full book. Now, looking at the cover of Triple Header Book 3 and looking at the car, it makes me think that possibly the haunted car could be involved with it. And that's my primary suspect of if a short story was repurposed and turned into a full book, it would be the haunted car. So it makes sense if the haunted car, The 13th Warning, and Zombie Town were Triple Header Book 3. Now, I could be dead wrong. My hypothesis could be dead wrong, and there could be completely unknown stories in it. That's why I'm including it on the Lost Media list, because we don't know what's inside of it. It's never been confirmed what stories were supposed to be in there. On top of that, it's kind of, adding fuel to the fire because Zombie Town is getting a movie with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. It's supposed to be coming out really soon. And it's based in the world of R.L. Stine. And it possibly could be linked to this lost book. It's definitely an uncovered one. It's not like an ISBN number exists that's propelling the mystery of the lost media out there, like Ghost of Fear Street 36, or even like Monsterville 2, The Haunted Getaway. That's a really obscure one nobody ever brings up. But the Triple Header Book 3 is one that I look up a lot. Mainly trying to find out which stories that have been made are connected to it. But as of now, it's unknown. And we don't know anything else besides the cover art. And that's the perplexing part of the mystery to me. And that's why I spend a lot of my free time, especially to this one, because it's just fascinating. It's fascinating. Um, Now, the fourth most sought after piece of lost media for me is actually related to a contest. Like I brought up the Brain Juice Terrifying Title contest earlier, there was another contest in 1998 promoted by Lunchables that saw three different separate mysteries involving this contest that is really staggering. One is that, well, it's not really a mystery, but there's a really, really, really rare, obscure Series 2000 bookcase that was part of this promotion, and you only got this bookcase through this Lunchables promotion. And collectors, especially die-hard collectors of like the books and bookcases and all the stuff dealing with every single Goosebumps book, need this bookcase to complete their collection, and it's super rare, right? And from time to time, you might see one pop up in like maybe a book lot, maybe by itself, but it sells lickety-split. The second layer to the mystery, its own mystery even, is that the three grand prize winners of this Lunchables contest got to go to New York City and help R.L. Stine write a Series 2000 book. What Series 2000 book they helped write is unconfirmed. Even the winners of this contest is unconfirmed. There is speculation, and I know Kid Lee Stoop on his Lost Media video for Goosebumps on here mentioned that I'm Your Evil Twin, which somebody mentioned on Reddit to be the culprit, but the contest where this Lunchables contest happened, they would have helped write a book that pretty much the month, by the month they went to go help it, it was being released. It makes no sense. So I'm assuming that it had to be past a certain book, like book 11 or 12, they helped write. Maybe they helped write Return to Horrorland, maybe even all the way up to Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid. That's where I would peg what story they helped write. But that's not the lost media that I'm after. It's the third mystery. Now, the third mystery had, I think it was a few thousand people, got to receive an exclusive R.L. Stine short story. Okay, 2,000. So that implies that there's a limited print run. We have no idea what this story is. We have no idea if it was in physical print. Maybe they printed it off in like a manuscript. Maybe they actually made some books. Maybe a little like leaflet book. Or maybe a very thin paper-bound book with staples that you kind of see at like Scholastic Book Fair giveaways and stuff like that. It could have been that quality. There's the mystery is trying to find what that story is, right? Is it a story that we already know? Is it potentially linked to Triple Hunter Book 3? Is it something that we've already seen before? You know, that's the question I have about this. And I know Jude DeLuca has also poured a lot of time into this search. I think me and Jude are like the only two people out there that are diehard looking for this answer. But yeah, I would love to see this one solved. And I opened a lot of people out there that come across this video. If you remember anything from the 1998 Lunchables contest, and you remember anything about it, were you maybe you were one of the winners of the short story, or maybe you were one of the winners that got to go meet R.L. Stine, let me know. Let me know down in the comments section. Because this one is definitely the most obscure one you're going to see on this. Wait, actually, that might be false, but it's definitely one of the more unknown lost media searches that us Goose nerds are after. Okay, so that's number 4. All right, so number 3 is not lost in a sense that there is audio files of this on YouTube and on archive. You can go listen to this and be fine. Technically, it's an audiobook. Technically, it exists. But in physical media, it's lost physical media. And finding a definitive answer to where this came from, what it exactly looks like, because there's only one rudimentary photo of it on the internet. There's a lot of mysteries involving this audio tape, but it exists. and it's of a Tales to Give You Goosebumps short story. And it comes from the 90s. Back in the day, there was only, I think 6 or 7 official licensed Goosebumps audio tapes to be released in the United States. But this technically makes it an 8th one. Like I said, unknown origins, but it's the Spirit of the Harvest Moon audio tape. Like I said, you can go on YouTube and listen to this audio tape. R.L. Stine's on it. You can go on Archive and listen to this and be just fine. This is more of a physical lost media search because, quite frankly, to collectors and completionists trying to build an archive, right? Audiobooks have not been on my forefront of purchasing, but I definitely plan on having one of the audiobooks at some point. This one is like the holy chalice you can find in physical media Goosebumps collecting, right? If you have this in your collection, you're sitting on probably the most expensive collectible Goosebumps item out there, because nothing like it has ever hit the market. People don't know how much it's worth until it goes up on eBay and seeing how much people drive up the price. It's lost physical media. There's no record of a sale anywhere online of this. There's hardly any mention, minus on Reddit, where this originated from, and then somebody out there on the interweb had this and uploaded it on Archive, which made its way on YouTube, but nobody's ever seen a physical copy of this thing. It's a nightmare to track down. I'm constantly looking up information. I do have it narrowed down to 2 suspects. One is this, promotional magazine that ran for 20 issues back in the 90s that did actually reprint Goosebumps short stories in them and give away Goosebumps books, some little mini books, trinkets, and stuff like that, called Thrills and Chills Magazine. That seems like a likelihood of a thing that would happen, because they would give them in these little bags with the magazine and all this extra stuff in it for, the subscribers. And the second suspect I have is possibly as a contest prize. It could have been some sort of contest prize, but I don't know what contest it would have been from. So that's all I got on that one. But yeah, I look for this one all the time. I just want to find a physical copy of this thing so I can document it or know that it physically exists. Because in audio it does exist. I know it exists in audio, but I have yet to really see a true listing, minus one little source photo that may or may not actually be it. So there you go. Now my top 2 are definitely my most sought after ones, and especially recently, my number 2 has been on my radar. Number 2 is a complete collection of the FBX magazine run of issues that contain Goosebumps 2-page comic stories in those issues. So FBX magazine was a UK magazine from the late 90s and early 2000s, and it's unknown how many of these actually exist. It was recently discovered by Jude DeLuca, who found original art for sale online, and you can go on eBay and see the perfect school art and another piece of art. I think it's only a partial piece of the Say Cheese and Die art. I think that's what it is, on eBay for crazy prices. I actually own some original art from the magazines myself. And so far I think there's maybe 10 to 13 confirmed, but nobody knows exactly which ones do exist and which ones have yet to be discovered, because these magazines are extremely rare. The original art, I've seen more original art pop up than the actual magazines, and the magazines were priced at £99 or 99 cents or pounds or euros, whatever it is in the UK. And I imagine that not a lot of kids hung on to their magazine collection growing up, and a lot of these haven't survived. I mean, in terms of colored scans, I think there's 3 in existence, and the rest of the known art we have of the FBX magazines come from original art we have had to purchase. And they're black and white. So, yeah, FBX magazine is more of an uncovered piece of media than lost media, but for the most part, finding the missing holes is lost. Because we don't know what exactly is out there. We don't know what exactly we're missing. And, yeah, that's why it's my number 2. I really don't have much to add on it because it's so obscure. And I might actually do a full story, like a lost media coverage type of thing. I've been contemplating on doing that for each individual thing here. But this is one I definitely think I need to make a light on because it's so cool and obscure. And it's one of my favorite things that I've come across being a Goosebumps fan. But my number 1 most sought after piece of Goosebumps lost media out there is one that I know a lot of kids across the world probably experienced for the few months that it was open and available in 1998. And that is the Goosebumps live on stage play recording. Okay? Out of all of the things that you had to go physically experience, whether you went to Walt Disney World and went to MGM Studios at the time and got to see the Goosebumps experience, that's videotaped. You know, there's some other things in and around Goosebumps, like even the Brain Juice Terrifying Title Contest that exists in videotape. But the one thing that had a mass promotion that went across, not just the North America, but went across over to Europe and to other countries, where there was mass amounts of physical media produced for it, like dolls, posters, advertisements, even a live on stage Screams of the Night book that you got when you went to the play, and all this other things that could be also associated with it. Out of all of that, the only thing that's missing is the actual recording of it, so we can all watch it. I think, I mentioned this a long time ago, my mom, I've been trying to find my childhood albums in my parents' attic every time I go visit, but it's so cluttered up in there. That's probably where the picture would be. But when I was a very little kid, my mom took my uncle, who's 2 years older than me, and she took me and my uncle to go see Goosebumps live on stage. While I don't remember a lot of it, my uncle remembers it. And I know that there's pictures of me, watching this at the play theater where I saw this at. And part of this search, I think this one has probably the most legs to be solved, only because there's circumstantial evidence. There's photo stills of the play. Of course, the people behind the play, worked with Rupert Holmes and R.L. Stine, who both wrote the play. And they produce things like Disney on Ice and productions like that, which do have comprehensive records and tapes existing. The only problem is the Goosebumps live on stage play, there is no taping of it. So we none of us have the opportunity to see how the play played out, how the performance looked. And that's lost media in itself. And that, to me, is the greatest form of lost media in Goosebumps, is missing that play. If I were people out there, just general casual fans of plays, of live performances, of just anything to look into that can benefit the masses, this is something that thousands and maybe even millions of kids got to experience within like 3 to 4 months before it got canceled. And kids these days may hear about it, may pick up the Scream in the Night book, but they will never get the chance to experience it if the video doesn't turn up. And I spend many nights looking into this. So far, I can tell you this: I have found evidence that there had to be some sort of play recording, because there was an episode of this very retro VH1 show called Where Are They Now? That featured Rupert Holmes, which is one of the creators of the play. And in this segment, it actually featured clips from the play in this VH1 episode. So it makes me think that these clips were at once part of an entire recording. The problem is, in order to trace the clips, potentially, you got to go through the VH1 episode. The VH1 episode is missing for this episode. It's documented on the internet that it exists, but the problem is that there's no recording of it or way to watch it on the internet. The second and that leads to the second issue is that without that, there's really the only ways you can go about finding this is maybe contacting every single theater that had this production in their house to see if somebody had a recording or archive of it, or contacting Rupert Holmes or the company involved, Feld Entertainment, that put on the play. But the problem is they'd never get back to you. So, like I said, internet's loose. I invite you to help with this one too. Especially, if this needs to get to bigger hands, bigger lost media searchers, that's fine. But this is one I really want to see solved. And if I had the recording, trust me, I'd be the first person to put it on my channel. I don't care if I get copyright striked or claimed. I will leave it up and die on my sword for you all. But yeah, that's my number one most sought after lost media search in Goosebumps. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this topic. Let me know down in the comment section, are there any other things that you might be looking for that I didn't cover in this video? Is there more physical media stuff? Is there more audio stuff? Maybe even some other recording things that you think that need to be found? More books, if you want to talk about Goosebumps Gold more, or some other things that I didn't mention on my most sought after list. Feel free to do it so in the comment section, and let's have conversations with each other and have a great time. See you next time.